Happy Monday. Welcome into the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we'll be here with you for the next couple of hours talking about sports of local, regional, and national importance. So hang around. It's going to be fun. As we got some college football going this past weekend, and just enough to get you ready for the full slate coming up this coming weekend for Labor Day weekend. High school football, week 1 is in the books. NFL football, the preseason is in the books. Football. But we got plenty of other stuff to talk about as well. And to help us do that, well, in the next segment, to help us do that, we'll have Teresa Walker of the Associated Press. We're going to talk a little hockey as we've got some lingering issues from last week that we weren't really able to get to. But we will visit in the next hour with Conor O'Neill of Rivals.com as we contemplate a little college football. One game in particular that took place over in Ireland over the weekend. So we're going to talk with him about that and how it impacts the Atlantic Coast Conference and college football writ large. So also a little baseball. Astros with a solid weekend. Braves with a less solid weekend, but solid. And at the end of the show, we'll get into the grab bag and get into all of the minutia, for lack of a better phrase, that took place over the weekend. So a lot to get to. Wade, are you rested? Are you refreshed? Did you have a easy, calm weekend?
You know, it was all good, but for the reasons you just gave. I mean, we got to cover 2 middle school football games Thursday, 2 high school soccer matches Thursday. We got to roll right in to high school football on Friday. We got to roll right into college, as you mentioned, on Saturday. And then you get to cap it. Preseason, yeah. But, you got to cap it with a little NFL action on Sunday. So it is back. And, we could make the whole 2 hours very easily fillable with just that content alone. But we're going to spread the wealth a little bit and tap into some of the other topics because a lot to get into, as you just mentioned a moment ago.
We do like to be diverse.
Yeah.
And so let's flex some of that diversity right here, right now, as we go to this weekend's results and today's schedule on the Rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Here we go, gang. The Monday Rundown is brought to you by Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right in the heart of Murray County. So give them a call today at 931-388-5831, or you can visit zioneagles.org to schedule your appointment today. That's Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college and equipped for purpose.
High school football Friday night. Ravenwood goes on the road, comes back with a 27-17 win up at Alcoa. Not too many people do that. So hats off to Will Hester and the Raptors. Battleground Academy playing basketball to open the season with a 68-41 win over Knoxville Webb. Brentwood 10 points better than Blackman, 24-14. Mount Juliet 56, Cane Ridge nothing. Clarksville, 50-0. My bad. Let's not make it any worse than it is. Clarksville High School with a 35-3 win over Montgomery Central. It was Donaldson Christian 56, Ezel Harding 6. Creekwood doubles up Dixon County 28-14. East Nashville with a 39-31 win over Pope John Paul II. East Robertson 30, Liberty Creek nothing. Ensworth with a 41-6 win over Tennessee Heat. East Hickman edges Fairview 41-35. Forest with a 40-34 win over Watertown. It was Clarksville Northwest 35, Fort Campbell of Kentucky 16. Franklin in overtime in the Battle of Mac Hatcher knocks off Centennial 22-21. Friendship Christian with a 46-7 win over Clarksville Academy. It was Stratford 48, Glencliff 6. Evangelical Christian out of Memphis, 35. Good Pasture, 17. Green Hill all over Clarksville Northeast, 41-7. Spring Hill with a blanking of Greenbrier, 34-0. It was White House Heritage, 41. Harpeth, 25. Hendersonville late gets past Gallatin, 19-16. Houston County with a 41-8 win over Hickman County. It was Hunters Lane, 34. Maplewood, 3. And coverage in MainStreetMurray.com. Oakland, 35. Independence, nothing.
Good win for Oakland on the road there. Kip Memphis defeating Innovation Academy 28-21 as we continue our scoreboard here from Friday night. Father Ryan was a 49-7 winner over John Overton. Franklin Road Academy with a 44-13 win versus Kenwood. Kirkwood 41, Sycamore 6. It was Lancaster Christian defeating Zion Christian 26-7. Your final score there. Lawson 27, Cheatham County 22. Antioch on top 11 34-22. Lincoln County defeats Richland 42-14. Loretto all over Collinwood 35-0. Late, but MBA defeats Pearl Cone 20-18. Good win for MBA this weekend. Marshall County survives a scare from Columbia 25-22. McEwen 27, Joe Burns 26. A lot of close games on Friday. Hillsboro 25, McGavock 14. Columbia Academy with a big win 42-20 over Middle Tennessee Christian. It was Mount Juliet Christian 31, Republic 12. Mount Pleasant 37, Wayne County 6. Nashville Christian 33, Davidson Academy 17. Page defeats Giles County 28-0. Nolansville 24, Rockvale 21. Riverdale on top of Smyrna 24-14. Beach down Station Camp 38-17 was your final score there. 33-21 as Stewart's Creek defeats Tullahoma. Summertown with a 14-0 win versus rival Lawrence County. Summit 28, Spring Hill 16 was a final there. Final few football scores from Friday. West Creek knocking off Laverne 13-8. Whites Creek 50, Wooddale 34, Rossview 22, Wilson Central 14. Taking you into Saturday where it's CPA defeating Brentwood Academy. Good ball game that was on TV. 31-24 your final there. 31-7 was your final Saturday as Macon County defeats Westmoreland. That takes you into volleyball mode for Friday. As the bump set Spike got a healthy dose of action this weekend as well.
No question. Starting Friday, Montgomery Catholic out of Alabama with a 2-0 win over Blackman. Gulf Shores also defeated Blackman 2-0. It was Cleveland 2, Summit 0. Zion Christian with a 3-0 win over Franklin Classical. Creekwood down Hillcrest of Alabama 2-0. Loretto win over Father Ryan. Culleoka down Mount Pleasant 3-0. Siegel with a pair of victories on Friday, 2-0 over Knoxville Central and 2-1 over William Blunt. On Saturday, it was Fairhope of Alabama 2, Blackman 0. Blackman bounces back with a 2-1 win over Pelham of Alabama and a 2-0 win over Jemison of Alabama. Eagleville downs Boyd Buchanan, Stewart's Creek, and Summertown. And Donaldson Christian, 2-0 each. Nolansville 2-1 over Farragut. It was Donaldson Christian 2, Gallatin 1. A 2-0 win over Grace Christian of Knoxville. Summertown defeated Gallatin 2-1. Summit defeated Loretto 2-0. Cleveland defeated Loretto 2-0. Loretto comes back with a 2-0 win over Sullivan East and a similar win over South Dole. Middle Tennessee Christian defeated Gallatin 2-0. Middle Tennessee Christian with 5 other wins against Summertown, Eagleville, Rockvale, Grace Christian of Knoxville, and Boyd Buchanan, all 2-0. Riverdale with a trio of wins, downing Donaldson Christian 2-0, Grace Christian of Knoxville 2-1, and Donaldson Christian again 2-0. Buchanan with a 2-0 win over Riverdale. It was Eagleville 2, Riverdale 1. Grace Christian of Knoxville defeated Rockvale 2-0. Gallatin defeated Rockvale 2-0. Summertown defeated Rockvale 2-0. It was Hardin Valley 2, Siegel 0. Siegel with a 2-0 win over Bryan Station out of Kentucky and a 2-0 victory over Knoxville Webb. North Oldham of Kentucky down Siegel 2-0. It was Riverdale 2, Stewart's Creek 0. Donaldson Christian with a 2-0 win over Stewart's Creek. Rockvale 2, Stewart's Creek 1. Boyd Buchanan 2, Stewart's Creek 0. And finally, Saturday volleyball, Franklin Road Academy 3, Webb School 0.
Take us to the soccer scoreboard. We go back to Friday. And we see Knoxville Webb defeating BGA 9-0. CPA with a 3-0 win versus Rossview. Chattanooga Christian knocks off Grace Christian Franklin 5-zip. Clarksville and Dobbins Bennett play to a 0-0 draw. Page defeats USJ 4-0. It was Pope John Paul II defeating South Oldham, Kentucky 1-0. Siegel on top of Rockvale 1-0 was your final score there in favor of the Stars. Moving to Saturday, Chattanooga Christian defeats Mount Juliet 1-0. Cosby 2-1 over East Robertson. It's Harpeth Hall 7, Dobbins Bennett 0. Davies County, Kentucky with a 6-1 win over Grace Christian Franklin. Mount Juliet defeats Grace Christian Franklin 8-0 in a doubleheader for Grace Christian on Saturday. Page defeats South Oldham, Kentucky 2-1. Pope John Paul II defeating Bartlett 3-1. Harpeth Hall with a 3-1 win over Stewart's Creek. Clarksville and Walker Valley play to 0-0 score. It was Stewart's Creek 5, Walker Valley 0. West Ridge defeating East Robertson 3-1 was your final tally there. That takes us into Sunday, where East Robertson defeats Lexington 3-1. Harpeth Hall picks up a 2-0 win over Frederick Douglass out of Kentucky. Davies County, Kentucky defeating Mount Juliet 2-1 was your final there. Page 4, Bartlett 1. McCracken County, Kentucky 3. Pope John Paul II 3. 6 goals combined in the draw there for those two teams. And capping your women's soccer scoreboard from the weekend, it was Stewart's Creek 3 and Clarksville 2.
Major League Baseball action of local interest, local to these Lee Company studios. On Friday, Baltimore Orioles with a 7-5 win over the Houston Astros. The Atlanta Braves edged the Nationals 3-2. On Saturday, it was the Orioles 3, the Astros 2. The Braves busted out the whipping sticks with a 4-2 win. Ooh, four runs for the Braves in that win over the Nationals. Not so much on Sunday. The Nationals with a 5-1 win over Atlanta. The Astros finished up that series with a 6-3 win at Baltimore. Sounds action out at First Horizon Park this weekend. The Sounds with a 4-1 win over the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. The Jumbo Shrimp returned the favor in a big way on Saturday, 10-1 over the Sounds. And in the final game of the series, it was the Sounds 10, Jacksonville nothing. WNBA action over the weekend. On Friday, the Mystics of Washington defeated the Los Angeles Sparks 80-74. 82-80 the final as the Connecticut Sun downs the Chicago Sky. Phoenix Mercury with an 82-80 win over the Atlanta Dream. And the Lynx down the Aces 87-74. Saturday, the Sun defeats the Liberty. That doesn't happen often. I think that's the 5th time all year, actually. The Connecticut Sun with a 72-64 win over the Liberty. Minnesota 90, Indiana 80 as they retired Maya Moore's jersey in Minnesota. We'll try to touch more on that later in the show. On Sunday, the Aces with a 77-75 win over the Sky, and the Dallas Wings, 113-110. Defense optional as the Wings down the Sparks in that one. Major League Soccer action. Wade, are the boys in blue ever going to win again?
Unlikely.
Austin 2, Nashville nothing.
Yeah, unlikely.
NFL preseason action yesterday afternoon. The Titans with a 30-27 win over the New Orleans Saints. The Titans complete an undefeated preseason for whatever that's worth.
Take it on into the schedule for this evening, folks. Volleyball action gets underway at 4:30 as Lincoln County travels to Loretto. Marshall County following with the trip to Santa Fe at 5 o'clock. 5:45 sees Columbia Academy at Franklin Road Academy. 6 p.m. First serves now, as it'll be Fairview at Battle Creek, Hickman County at Columbia, Riverdale at Eagleville. Summertown will travel to Lawrence County tonight. Lauderdale County is at Loretto. That match set to begin at 6:30. A couple other 6 p.m. Start times, however. Cookeville at Stewart's Creek, Laverne at Warren County, Smyrna at White County, and Mount Pleasant, who is at Zion Christian.
Girls soccer this evening at 5 o'clock. Columbia Academy travels to Battleground Academy. At 5:30, Cane Ridge is at St. Cecilia Academy. At 6 o'clock, Bowling Green of Kentucky is at Ensworth. At 6:30, you've got Providence Christian at Franklin County. More 6 o'clock starts. Republic is at Hunters Lane. Loretto is at Lawrence County. 6:30. Battleground is at Spring Hill. Christ Presbyterian Academy goes to Brentwood Academy. And at 7, Lipscomb Academy is at Brentwood. Major League Baseball action this evening at 5:40. Houston travels to Philadelphia, taking on the Phillies. Again, that's a 5:40 start. You can see it on FS1. On Valley Sports South at 6:40, it's the Braves beginning a series at Minnesota against the Twins. WNBA action this evening. 6:30, Indiana is at Atlanta. You get on the NBA TV network. That one is followed on that network at 9 o'clock by the New York Liberty at the Phoenix Mercury. Also at 9, no television for this one, but the Mystics are at the Storm. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you as always by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options that are available until 6 o'clock, as well as their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. The Little League World Series concluded Sunday. World Championship matchup was between Lake Mary of Florida and Taiwan after Lake Mary defeated Bourne of Texas in Saturday's United States Championship. Nail biter right down to the wire and beyond, as this one went into extra innings. The international tiebreaker that has now become, I wouldn't say popular, but has gone into use in Major League Baseball as well, where you start with a base runner at second, was in effect for both Taiwan in the top of the 8th and Lake Mary in the bottom of the 8th. Well, Lake Mary drops a bunt. Taiwan somehow doesn't cover first. Throw goes up the right field line. Winning run scores. Lake Mary 2-1, 8 innings. Final. Tough way to lose a ball game. Lake Mary wins the Little League World Series for the first time since, first time in 9 trips. So first time ever for Florida. And Taiwan was playing for its 18th Little League World Series championship. Its first since 1996. Came up short. Again, bunt defense. It's it'll get you at every level if you're not careful. And it got Taiwan on Sunday, unfortunately. That's like I said, that's just a tough way to lose a ball game. You can take it if you feel like a team beat you, but when you feel like you didn't execute, that's a hard way to go out, especially on that stage.
Yeah, shout out to Lake Mary getting it done, holding it down for the U.S. Props to Taiwan, but the little things will get you. And you don't cover first, you throw it down the right field line. I mean, it looked like a T-ball game at the end more than it did, the championship game, because the ball just flies past the bag at first. And, Lake Mary just cruises around. I love the slide at home, too. Kind of totally unnecessary, but you got to slide, right? I mean, just a little added effect just for fun.
Oh, absolutely. Extends the United States mastery in this world championship matchup. I believe the United States has won each world championship matchup since 2017. Obviously, it was not played in 2021, but besides that, however many that is, what is that, 6 straight now? 17, 18, 19, 20. No, it's more than that. Anyway, my Franklin High math betraying me here, but yeah, again, just continued dominance by the U.S. in this matchup. And again, I guess Noah Lyles is okay with Lake Mary calling themselves the Little League World Champions.
Big dub for them. Proud of them kids.
Absolutely. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will visit with TERESA Walker of the Associated Press. So stay with us when we come back to the Lee Company Studios after this. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
He shoots, and he scores!
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are joined now by the queen of Tennessee sports media, TERESA Walker of the Associated Press, joining us to talk a little hockey. That probably won't be all we talk, just to warn you, but we'll start there. As there was a trade last Friday that I really didn't expect. We spoke last week with Ann Kimmel of Penalty Box Radio about Yaroslav Zaskarov's demand for a trade and informing everyone that he would not be reporting to the Predators AHL affiliate in Milwaukee. And so Barry Trotz said, okay, fine, we'll get you out of here. Askarov is now a Shark, traded for a draft pick and a couple of prospects, along with a prospect and a draft pick. TERESA, when you heard about Askarov's comments, I mean, did you think that this was the way it would ultimately wind up?
Well, yes. I mean, let's be honest. Barry Trotz had two choices to make. Choose between UC Saros, who finished fifth in the Vezina Trophy voting this year, fourth last year. And, you know, while you can look at his size and his age and think maybe an 8-year deal isn't the way to go, Barry went with the guy who's getting lots of attention and respect for being one of the best goalies in the NHL now, as opposed to taking the bet on a Russian and Yaroslav Askarov, who made it very clear that he wanted the ability to be competing for a spot now in the NHL, and that he was not ready to sit and marinate in the AHL level with Milwaukee for another year. And when he went to San Jose, guess what? They immediately signed him to a 2-year extension worth $4 million. So, he's getting some more money now, and he's going to have an opportunity with San Jose, who needed goalie help. I mean, there is opportunity in San Jose, which finished among the worst teams in the NHL this last season. And, and guess what? Barry Trotz gets 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 first-round picks in next year's draft in June. So, and he gets, let's see, if Vegas's pick is in the top 10, San Jose can either send its first rounder to the Predators instead. They sent Thomas Hertl to the Knights. Predators net forward in David Edstrom and a goalie named Magnus Krona, who, never heard of him. I think he won't have a problem going to the AHL. But, let's face it, one of the things that made Askarov so interesting and dynamic and somebody that perks your ears, guy's got swag, okay? I mean, this is the guy who they literally did a bobblehead for bench pressing the goalpost after turning it upside down after a shutout. So, I mean, when they brought him up to take a look at him, he stoned not just Alex Ovechkin, he stoned another Russian in a win over the Washingtons in a shootout to post a win when they brought him up last season to take a look at him over a couple of games. But, they've got Mitch Korn back on the roster as a goalie consultant here in Nashville. No offense, but I'm going to take Mitch Korn's ideas about goaltenders over the young and anybody who's been a parent or has a son that's in their 20s. We know that they think they are 6 feet tall and bulletproof.
10 feet. Yep.
Can't nobody tell them nothing. And Barry said, you know what? I'm going to do it my way. I have a Stanley Cup as a champ, as a coach. I'm a champ. And I think I know. And you know what? For those of us who remember his dealings with Alexander Radulov and he also managed to find a way to make it work with Ovechkin in Washington. So I'm going to lean toward Barry and give him the benefit of the doubt, especially considering that he's pushed his chips to the middle of the table with the move and getting Stamkos here. I mean, he's made it clear, I'm trying to win now, and I think I can do it best with Yuki Saros in net.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason really not to trust Barry Trotz. I mean, I certainly wasn't casting any aspersions in that direction. I just, I'm that parent that, no, you're not going to tell me what to do kind of guy. And it almost feels like, in one sense, it feels like Barry kind of threw up his hands and said, okay, fine, you're gone.
Well, Askarov made it kind of clear that, it made it seem like some of his comments, that Barry was trying to work out a trade quietly and keep him happy. And Askarov wasn't happy at the speed things were happening. And Barry said, you want out of here? I'll get you out of here. Don't try Barry was the biggest message I got out of that is I'm the GM here, not you. I'll take care of things. I mean, guys, they don't have to report for the camp, for another couple of weeks. I mean, it is August 26th, and usually they report for camp around the middle of September. So there was time to get a deal done. And with Askarov kind of going public with the laundry, it didn't feel like Barry was so much surrendering as I'm going to tell you who's in charge here, baby. And it ain't you. And you may not have wanted to be in San Jose at the end of the day. When he gets there, he may find out, but guess what? Skarloff did not have the cards in this situation. The Predators did, and Barry did what Barry wanted to do and what Barry thought was in the best interests of the Nashville Predators. And we'll see how it plays out. The fun thing is this. He does have UC Saros. He does have somebody in hand to back up Saros this season. And he has a rather loaded lineup. I mean, I'll tell you this. When I was in France, I can't tell you how many Canadians I heard from who were like, boy, Predators are going to be doing something this season, aren't they? So the expectations are certainly high. I'm not so sure that they're that high for the San Jose Sharks this season because they have a lot more building to do than the Nashville Predators.
And it's interesting. Go ahead, Wade. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, one of the worst teams in terms of points last year in all the NHL, Teresa. How quickly does this help San Jose maybe get to where they want to be in your mind? Because you're talking about a bona fide prospect there.
Well, a bona fide prospect who has not, I mean, he was yanked from a couple of playoff games in the AHL level within the last, this spring. So, as good as he has flashed, he still has some growing to do, which is why, Barry had made a comment that, that it's okay for a goalie to marinate in the AHL before you get to this point. And that's the thing, marinate. I think Nashville Predators record with goaltenders is pretty good. One of them has a statue outside the arena as we speak because he put this franchise on its shoulders to the one and only Stanley Cup final that they've ever appeared in. Now, Saros, we're still waiting for Saros to win a series, let alone show that he could, he's shown season, regular season, growth and potential for sure, enough to get votes for the Vezina Trophy. Now we need to see Saros help this team steal a series. It was there for the taking this last spring, didn't happen against the Vancouver Canucks. Probably wouldn't have gone well in the second round, but we will never know. And that's what UC has got to do. And they've got to be better in front of Saros. So I think that Barry has made the moves to give them some extra scoring beyond Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi. Now it's going to be up to Saros to see what he can do with the help that he's been given in front of him to help this team move along. But San Jose Sharks, buddy of mine covers them. That seemed to be more of a for the future move for the Sharks. He's going to get a chance to play now, but I don't see him lifting them to a playoff series win within the next year or so. I mean, within the next 5 years, sure. But in the timetable that Barry Trotz is looking for, no.
It's interesting to me, Teresa, that timetable is what it is, because I remember, 2 seasons ago at the end of the season when those trades were made and when John Hines was still behind the bench, and it felt like this was heading into a rebuild. Nobody wanted to say it, but it felt like it was headed that way. But that offseason and some of those trades that they made actually obviously kept them in contention at the end of the 23 season, I guess it was. And it feels like the whole window is kind of reopened and the process is sped up for the Predators to get back into or stay in contention.
22 season because, I think 22. God, yes, 23 season because it was after that season and John Hines' lack of success in the playoffs that they made that's when the whole Barry Trotz era officially began. Think about it. He's barely been officially in charge since July 1st of last year, and yet his fingerprints are all over the moves that have been made with Andrew Brunette, hired as the new coach, got rid of John Hines, and got rid of some contracts that, felt like anchors around Barry Trotz's neck. And, right now, even Ryan Johansson last week, the Flyers said goodbye to him and did it in such a way that it's like that won't come back. Not only will it not come back on the Predators, it's a move that can clear up $4 million in dead cap space for the Predators. And it's like everything's coming up Barry Trotz's way right now. So it's like, now things can change between now and next playoffs, but everything is looking good. He needed some cap space, and he's getting it. And may need to make yet another move or two to create some more cap space. But everything is coming up his way at this point, and it's like, okay, Barry, what you got a pocket full of shamrocks there, 4-leaf clovers. What did you find some horseshoes on your way into town? What is going on here? But he forget pushing buttons. I mean, he's been like David Copperfield in reworking this roster and creating some space and bringing in players to make this suddenly look like a team that is, I mean, let's face it, they're not just expected to win a playoff series. They are expected to contend in the West, to come out of the West. And it's a sea change. I mean, we're like, can UC Saros win a playoff series? So now it's not just they're going to win a playoff series. They're going to contend to maybe come out of the West and get to the final. And I'm like, whoa, that happened in a year, a season's period. And it's like, wow, that's some, I mean, all love to David Poile. He did some amazing things for this franchise. The winningest and longest tenured GM in NHL history. And yet here comes Barry Trotz saying, let me show you how you can do things a little differently. And he's just waving his wand and making things happen. And now it'll be, when they report for camp in just a couple weeks, it'll be up to the players and Brunette to make it happen on the ice. But he certainly put them in position to do everything that they need to do and given them the tools and Brunette the tools to make it happen.
TERESA Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. TERESA, as you mentioned, David Poile, he was kind of understated in his general managerial duties. There wasn't a whole lot of flash to it. It was just kind of an even keeled thing. It feels like Barry is more, and kind of goes against his personality, it looks like, or his image, maybe, I don't know, but he's been, like you said, a little bit more dynamic with his moves.
Well, and I almost think that his background as a coach, that idea that I know what I know what Andrew Brunette needs. I mean, think about that. He has been behind the bench, not just in Nashville, but he won a cup in Washington. He was behind the bench with the Islanders, and they pushed him out at the end. And, after he got them to the playoffs. And so it does feel a little bit more, I mean, he's in a position where, he's been behind the bench and had to make the decision. Okay, I'm mixing up my lines. I'm sending this guy over the bench at this point to get on the ice at this moment. It feels more like he's used to making flash and quick decisions for personnel during games. And now he's not really stepped that far back, but he is used to making a decision in a heartbeat and in the moment's notice, having last change when they're at home, that kind of idea, that kind of flow that, okay, I see this, I'm going to make the decision and go for it. So that's where I do think his coaching background, David Poile came at it a little bit more from the front office, the GM spot, a little bit distance, I'm going to say, whereas Barry was right there, inches away from the ice. And from a coach's perspective, I want to give Andrew Brunette everything I think he needs to make this work. And that's where I think there's the difference between the two men. David Poile made Barry Trotz an NHL coach for the first time and also shuffled him off to Washington, essentially, when he didn't renew his contract. So that's the difference, I think, between the men. David, you're right. He would very much go for it at trade deadline periods, but Barry is the kind that I'm trying to set my team up for success now as we start the season. And then, we'll make the moves that we need to make at the deadline as we need to. But I want my coach to have what he needs now before the season even starts.
All right. Teresa, we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little Titans with you before we let you go today, as they come out of their final preseason game yesterday, a 30-27 win down at New Orleans. Anything in particular stand out in that game, or as they, head into their cut down process to get down to 53?
Well, a couple things. I mean, yes, they did score 30 points yesterday, which is, let's face it, stunning. And they led the AFC in total yards of offense per game. Now, granted, it's preseason, but this is a team that could not average 300 yards of offense in each of the last two seasons. I looked it up. I mean, it was 289 yards this last season, and I think it was 296.8 for 22. And so now they go into this season, and we'll see what Brian Callahan dials up and if they can sustain it for a 17-game season. But if they're leading the AFC in total yards of offense per game, then that is massive improvement and helps validate Amy Adams' strong decision to change coaches from defensive-minded Mike Vrabel to, he was a linebacker for his career. He is tagged a defensive-minded coach. Brian Callahan comes in having been an offensive coordinator, so he gets the tag of offensive-minded, and he's calling the plays, offensive-minded head coach. Also, they have their starting offensive line. It's Nicholas Petit-Frere, who is back at right tackle, Dylan Radins at right guard, Lloyd Cushenberry at center, the guy that they signed and brought in as a free agent, Peter Skoronski, the number 11 draft pick a year ago out of Northwestern, and this year's first-round pick at number 7 overall, J.C. Latham at left tackle. So you've got your offensive line, you know who it is, and you know who your starting quarterback is. And there's a chance that you've got DeAndre Hopkins back for the opener September 8th in Chicago. Now, when they make the cut down tomorrow, they have to be at 53 by 3 o'clock tomorrow on Tuesday. Look for them to add help at linebacker. Chance Campbell, an inside linebacker, they really like. Brian Callahan said tore his ACL. He's out for the year. They also have Garrett Wallow, I think is his name, who also had an injury. Cedric Gray, we never saw him play in the preseason games because of his shoulder issue. So they need some depth at linebacker, and we'll see how they're able to use IR. They don't have to pass guys through waivers and then get them back on IR. They can go ahead and put a guy on IR and then bring him back later in the year once he's missed so many games. So I'm curious to see what they do to shore up the inside linebacker depth. That is a big question at this point for this team, and a nice thing in a way that it's not right tackle because, let's face it, offensive line the last couple of years has been a spin the wheel kind of thing. And now we think they've got that settled and a bunch of young guys at that.
Yeah, and the Campbell injury was tough, especially because you mentioned that, Teresa. It seems like he'd been playing well in the first couple of preseason games and really flourishing in this camp, and then go out yesterday with injury, and it didn't look good from the jump.
Exactly. I think he slammed his helmet down. And when a player does that, you may not have heard it over the audio, but they know and the sad thing is last year, they signed him back. He plays 4 games. I think it was all of 23 was the year that he played all of his games. He was a 6th-round pick in 22. He's played 4 career NFL games. And, they signed him from the practice squad, and he got hurt in warm-ups before the Tampa Bay game last year in November and didn't play again. So it's like just when you think he's doing better, I mean, some guys just have that luck, and it's not good.
Malik Willis, a Titan or not?
I think he gets cut. We'll see if he makes it through waivers and they can sign him to the practice squad. But I saw some improvement this preseason, but I haven't seen enough to say. I mean, for an offense that can really seriously argue, are we keeping a seventh receiver or a fourth tight end, and still needs some depth guys on the offensive line? And again, we just mentioned inside linebacker needs help. So I just cannot make enough of an argument that Malik Willis needs to be here over somebody else. I cut him and then see if I can get him back on the practice squad.
I don't know that that's going to be an option for you.
I don't. Show me the team that needs him.
I don't know that anybody needs him per se, but I think that there is enough there that somebody's going to feel like, we can figure out something to do with this guy. So
I heard Charles Davis make that argument on the broadcast yesterday, and I disagree with him, and I disagree with you, Mo.
I'm certainly no expert. I mean, I felt a little bit better feeling that way because Charles Davis did, but I
disagreed with him immediately.
And it won't be the Saints because Spencer Rattler looked pretty good in the backup role yesterday for those guys.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. So, I mean, he had a couple of nice throws yesterday, but he started off with a couple of sacks. So, and that's the problem is now granted, I've been back for a couple of weeks, a couple of joint practices, got to see him start. But it was immediately obvious that Mason Rudolph, there was no competition for the backup role. Mason Rudolph had it. And so if he's competing to be the 3, yes, there very well might be a coach in front office out there that says, we can make that out of him. There's always a coach that thinks that. I just think that I think you can get him through waivers and sign him to your practice squad.
I just feel like, and ideally, that would be the situation that you do get him through waivers and sign him to the practice squad. I'm just not sure that you're going to get him through waivers, but you are. So, and I'm going to defer to you, and I'm sure we'll revisit this at some point when he's on another team. But
I have been right and I have been wrong. I've seen fire. I've seen rain.
I understand. What about the kick six that wasn't? Real quick.
Well, I'll say this. Give props to Thomas Odukoya. I mean, he is in the NFL as part of the NFL's international program. He's a Netherlands native. And yes, he played at a college in the U.S., but this is a program designed to give teams, an extra roster spot to keep guy around and help him learn as they try to, put their NFL tentacles around the rest of the world and find talent around the world that can play. He did not quit. And the better thing is he took the angle because he ran 20 yards one way and then he ran down the field the other way and he took the right angle. Otherwise, that's a touchdown. Yeah. And it's the older brother of Pakua Nakua, or however you say his name with the Chargers, who was trying to get that all the way back. And I'll just say this, I was surprised because, Naverson or whatever his name is, he makes the 59-yarder outdoors a week ago. Yep. He made it and they ice him with the timeout and it's a yard short. And he comes up short on the second attempt. So it's like, wow, you can't make consecutive 58-yarders. So that may have hurt his stock a teensy bit more than it, helped the fact that Nakua came up just shy of making an incredible play. I mean, that would have been the play of the preseason.
Is that a play that a guy can make a roster off of, Teresa?
Maybe. I let's stay tuned because he came so close, both for making the touchdown for the Saints player and for Odukoya. I mean, he didn't quit, and that's what you can't coach sometimes. And again, angles, taking the right angle to make that tackle, that could be the thing. The problem is that Callahan talked to us today. That room, which had seemed to be a little weak, suddenly it's a packed room, and Jason Alton has done a great job coaching those guys up. So he did everything possible to make his case. Let's say that.
Absolutely. Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Teresa, as always, we appreciate it and look forward to catching up with you soon. Probably the next time we visit with you, we'll know where Malik Willis is.
Malik Willis is, and we'll have a season to be talking about because we won't be talking about preseason anymore.
There we go. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. When we continue on Main Street Sports today, after this break, we'll be talking a little baseball. So stay with us when we return to the Lee Company studios after this.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
'26, 1998. With his fourth inning stolen base, Andrew Jones became the youngest player to post a 20-homer, 20-steal season. Jones was 21 years, 125 days old at the time of his feat, eclipsing former Houston Astros phenom Cesar Cedeno. Jones scored on a Tony Graffinino base hit that inning following a Javi Lopez two-run homer and went 3 for 4 on the day as the Braves won 6-2 at Houston. That was this day in Braves history. Nice little accomplishment there. One of many for the should-be Hall of Famer, Andrew Jones, who you can see by the way?
Next week, right?
Saturday.
This week.
Saturday.
This month has flown by.
Tell me about it. At Home Run Derby X out at First Horizon Park. He wait a minute. Is it him? No, it's Manny. I'm sorry. He's not.
Well, he was billed as going to be there. He just wasn't at the press conference.
Okay.
Maybe they've changed.
It seemed, I thought I remembered that as well, but I'm old, so yeah, I think you're right. Manny Ramirez, Nick Swisher, all going to be there. They are 3 of the 4 major league personalities on those squads. So yeah, Home Run Derby X Saturday out at First Horizon Park. Be sure and get out there and check that out. Again, Atlanta taking 2 of 3 from Washington over the weekend, won 3-2 on Friday, 4-2 on Saturday, lost 5-1 yesterday. Got another injury scare as Michael Harris got hit in the hand/wrist area by a pitch, but tests were negative on that, so we'll see if he plays tonight at Minnesota. Marcell Ozuna fouled a ball off of his left knee during an at bat. He is day to day, so I don't know, man. The Braves, if there is anybody that can get hurt, they do get hurt for Atlanta. So let's just hope that they can limp to the finish here at this point. Max Free getting the ball for Atlanta up at Target Field tonight, 7-7 with a 3.57 ERA. Bailey Ober, 12-5 with a 3.54 starting for Minnesota in this one. Houston and Baltimore split a 4-game series. Houston getting out with the 6-3 win yesterday. Got to feel pretty good about that against what is a good Baltimore team, but has slipped a little bit of late.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Them and the Yankees, it's a game of hot potato in that division. They can't decide who wants to pull away. Just when it feels like New York's going to run away with it, here comes Baltimore. Just when it feels like the Orioles are going to take care of business, here come the Yankees. And so round and round we go in the AL East.
Never a dull moment in the AL East. Danny Jansen, if you are into baseball, and for the second time in this show, minutia, Danny Jansen has become the first Major League Baseball player to play for both teams in the same game. So Boston and Toronto were playing a game on June 26th that was suspended at the top of the second inning due to rain. Jansen started at catcher for the Blue Jays in that game. He was traded at the deadline to the Red Sox, replacing catcher Reese McGuire on the Boston roster. McGuire had started that game back on June 26th. Jansen is now catching for the Red Sox in this suspended game. What I'm not understanding is why it was suspended, why they didn't just scrap it and start all over again. But clearly that was not the tack that they took. And again, with McGuire no longer there, Jansen is in the lineup and will appear in both. He's going to be in both box scores from the June 26th game.
Yeah, this is a baseball nerd's dream right here. I saw a couple tweets over the weekend, and people were like literally giddy. I think you could just feel the excitement coming from some of the sports writers. They were so pumped to unearth this nugget, and it's going to be pretty cool, right? I mean, you're on both sides. We've talked about players getting traded during the game. You know how kind of interesting that dynamic is, but buckle up. We've reached a new threshold when this gets ready to take place tonight.
Because Jansen was not with the Red Sox when the game was originally suspended, he is eligible to be substituted into the game when it resumes. Doesn't matter that he was in the opposing team's lineup. This is completely by the book. Jansen was in the batter's box taken his first at bat of the game when the game was suspended. And so his count was assumed by pinch hitter Dalton Varsho. This is a baseball nerd's dream. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing the box score on this, where you've got D Jansen on both sides.
Twice.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty unreal. That's going to wrap up our number one of Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We've got some other baseball items that we may or may not get to later in the show. But when we return to the Lee Company studios, we're going to talk a little more NFL as, again, cut down days are coming and movements are being made. And so we're going to dive into some of that when we come back. So stay tuned after this.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. This is hour number 2 of the Monday Mirror edition as we come to you from the Lee Company studios and scrolling through Twitter as we are wont to do. The Cowboys and receiver CeeDee Lamb have apparently reached an agreement on a 4-year $136 million extension.
Whew.
Now that's what? Is it 34 million a year? Is that right?
That is a lot of dough coming CD's way.
It is. It is indeed. Lamb, who will be 25 years old entering the 2024 season, his 5th year in the NFL, becomes the second highest paid non-quarterback, trailing only the 35 million APY set by Vikings receiver Justin Jefferson, who back in June signed a 4-year, $140 million deal. It's fascinating to me that they signed CD before they signed Dak, or that they extended CD before they extended Dak. And I don't know what to take from that. But according to this article on CBSSports.com, now the Cowboys front office can focus on addressing their other 2 All-Pros and quarterback Dak Prescott, who is entering the final year of his contract in 2024, and edge rusher Michael Parsons, who is eligible to sign an extension after having played 3 seasons following his 12th overall selection in the 2021 draft. So they got more dough to pass out, or they're going to need to pass out some more dough. I don't know if they got more dough to pass out or not, but
they ain't got a ton more to pass out, but they're going to spread around what they got.
They're going to have to figure something out because, I mean, you've just signed a receiver to a $34 million a year deal over the next 4 years. You got to have somebody throw it to him, right?
Yeah, you can only run so many end around. So yeah, they're going to need they're going to need somebody.
Only so many jet sweeps for CD. Yeah, so that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they get the other 2 done before the beginning of the season or not. But that's the latest from the NFL. But also another receiver who's not getting 4 years, $136 million. But the Chiefs are expected to bring Juju Smith-Schuster back. Played there in the 22-23 season, caught 78 balls for 933 yards and 3 touchdowns, another 10 for 89 yards in the postseason as the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. He was released earlier this month by the Patriots after starting 7 of 11 games last year under a 3-year, $25.5 million deal. So I guess there's a little familiarity in Smith-Schuster in Kansas City as they try to kind of shore some things up with Rashee Rice expected to be suspended for a vehicular issue back in April, and Hollywood Brown dealing with a separated shoulder from Kansas City's first preseason game. They still got plenty of guys that can catch the ball, including rookie Xavier Worthy, Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman, and Kadarius Toney, who I'm surprised is still actually in Kansas City, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, Chiefs expected to bring Smith-Schuster back.
Feels like a good little bit of business for them. Bring back a guy, what are you really expecting out of this guy? Kansas City certainly seems to have unlocked the most out of him as he got close to 1,000 yards with them in that 22 season. Only time he'd gone that high was the year he eclipsed over 1,000 with Pittsburgh back in 2018. So it feels like they've gotten the most out of him. I don't know that they're signing him anticipating, 78 catches, 933 yards, and 3 touchdowns like that 22 season. But if he can give you a little bit of depth, that could go a long way because we've seen how explosive those guys can be with Mahomes pulling the strings.
Absolutely. And, they have quite the receiver core. And again, when you add Xavier Worthy to that, it's like giving Mahomes another toy. And we talked about that, coming out of the draft.
And obviously the ultimate X factor in Kelsey, who is also kind of the maestro that makes that whole thing go in many respects as well.
Yeah. So they got a lot of pieces to the puzzle there in Kansas City on offense. And so Smith-Schuster certainly feels like he adds to that. Speaking of the Patriots, QB1 has still not been decided. And I don't know what the fascination is with that situation for me. I guess because Drake May was picked 3rd overall, and you just would have expected that he would slot right in there. And clearly that's not the case for first-year coach Gerard Mayo. But Brissett injured his right shoulder, his throwing shoulder, on New England's first possession of Saturday's game against Washington. So suddenly May is thrust in there unexpectedly and got a little bit more run than was anticipated. But, the question at this point becomes, is Brissett going to be healthy enough to make the start in the season opener for New England, or is May going to kind of get this, by default as much as anything else?
Yeah, it's real interesting. And there's a very popular former ESPN columnist who's got his own podcast network now, Pat Superfan, who is really, kind of begging that they don't start May right now because that whole situation is kind of a mess.
It's a mess in a way that you would not expect New England to be a mess.
Yeah. They quickly have gone from the standard to really stinking up the place. And they've got a horrible offensive line. Mm-hmm. And so the thought process is, if you throw out May, that kind of old school, sink or swim, it may not go well for him. And if you ruin his confidence and if you kind of tarnish what you got in this guy, it really could potentially do some damage. So they got a lot of questions to answer. They're going to be bad. I mean, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this season. So the question is, how much do you feel comfortable with May taking on this year, or do you kind of shield him potentially from that, get what you can get from a very consummate professional in Brissett and see where that takes you?
Yeah. I mean, do you throw him to the Wolves behind that line?
I feel like that's a bad idea.
Yeah. So, which, I mean, if you're Jacoby Brissett, you're like, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Send me out.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. The one franchise that has kind of treated him fairly thus far in his career, it feels like. And now they really, well, you did say you wanted to be a starter, but guess what? Here's your offensive line, and here's your pieces you got to work with this year, big fella.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens offensive line coach Joe D'Alessandris died yesterday at the age of 70. Had been hospitalized previously due to an acute illness that would keep him away from the team for some time. That's tough anytime. Had been the OL coach for the Ravens since 2017 and had worked previously with the Chiefs, Bills, and Chargers, as well as Duke and Pittsburgh in the collegiate ranks. In Baltimore since 2017. The Ravens have brought in George Warhop to take over the O-line in D'Alessandris's absence. But man, you hate to hear that. I mean, that's especially 70's not that old. So obviously our condolences go out to the Ravens organization and Coach D's family, but that's kind of unexpected here as you're getting ready for the season.
Yeah, certainly tragic news for the Ravens franchise. And this was a guy that when we're bringing this story up, I pull up his Wikipedia. I mean, this guy has coached everywhere. Memphis and Chattanooga back in the 80s, all the way to the CFL, to the NFL. I mean, this guy had done it all. So to pass away, obviously at 70 is seems young, but also seems very tragic being this close to the start of the season. So a rough situation for the Ravens, and Coach Warhop hopping right in to take care of the Ravens situation. Again, man, just 2 weeks before the start of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to trivialize a person's death by saying, man, this is awfully inconvenient for the team. But, that's a tough ask right there to ask somebody to come in here this close to the start of the season and get up to speed, with a team like the Ravens, who obviously have some expectations around them. So tough deal there for the Baltimore Ravens. And again, you hate to hear that Joe D'Alessandris passing away at the age of 70, former offensive line coach for the Ravens. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, Conor O'Neill of Rivals.com to talk a little college football with us. One game, one situation in particular, but we will probably expand from there. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
Robertson County Chancery Court is hosting an in-person court auction Saturday, September 7th at 10 a.m. Buy up to 9.46 acres of beautiful Robertson County land, selling in 2 tracts. Each tract includes water and approved soil areas. Located at 4637 Boyd Holland Road. Join us Saturday, September 7th at 10 a.m. Sales subject to court approval. For more details, call 615-384-5650 today.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Error continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And before we bring Conor O'Neill in, if you were surprised by Georgia Tech's 24-21 win over Florida State Saturday in Dublin, then that means you weren't listening to us. Mark. And we talked a little bit with Chris Lowe of ESPN about this yesterday. Florida State and Georgia Tech will play over in Dublin. That's a 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff on ESPN. And I will tell you, I'm a little excited to see DJU under center for Florida State after, leaving Clemson and going out to Oregon State and now coming back cross country again. And I assume this is his final year of eligibility. I can't keep up anymore.
Yeah, hard to say. It feels like, just when you think somebody's exhausted of eligibility, they're able to get one back. So presumably, whether or not that means eligibility expired or maybe he takes it to the pros remains to be seen.
Yeah, but I'm excited to see what he's able to do in Mike Norvell's offense and with the other folks that are going to be around him in that. And obviously, I presume, as you said, that Florida State and Clemson play. And that will certainly shape up as an interesting matchup. What we missed in that clip was that both Wade and I had agreed that 10.5 points for Florida State was a lot. And neither of us would be surprised if the Seminoles did not cover. We didn't go out on a limb and predict an out-and-out Georgia Tech victory, but certainly thought Georgia Tech would play Florida State close, and obviously they did that. But Conor O'Neill of Rivals.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today. And Conor, I didn't get to see the game as it turned out because I had some other obligations on Saturday, but trying to keep up with it on social media and that kind of thing, a lot of anti-DJ chatter and that kind of thing. What did you see, first of all, out of DJ Uiagalelei for Florida State? Is he going to be okay as QB1 for Mike Norvell and the Seminoles, or are there some issues there? What do you think about his performance, first of all?
I think that DJ might wind up being the most polarizing figure for ACC football in the last 5 to 7 years.
Why is that?
I honestly, it's kind of this weird thing where everybody wants to make it his fault that Clemson didn't maintain the level of being a national contender when he was a starter in 21 and 22. Everybody forgets that they had such a significant drop-off at the receiver positions in those years also. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think you can really anoint Clemson, even with Florida State being 0-1 in the conference. I don't think you can anoint Clemson today as being the front runner because we don't know about their receiver position still. I think DJ will be kind of what you just said. He'll be okay at Florida State. I don't think that's what the Florida State team needs. I think they need great. I think Jordan Travis was a great quarterback last year. And so that's where I'm kind of hung up on. I know we expect Florida State to be at the top of the conference when they go 12-0, when they had the season that they had last year, 13-0, I guess, shorten them that ACC championship win. But, I don't know. You wind up wanting more. And my takeaway watching DJ on Saturday was they didn't ask him to do much in the first half. In the first half, the checkdowns, the swing passes to running backs, all that stuff, that was fine. That was kind of just what the offense looked like it called for. In the second half, when you ask him to go out and win the game, he's underthrowing a receiver who's 30 yards down the field and free of coverage. He's taking, I think it was a 3rd and 6, I think. Honestly, might have even been a 4th down. He had a receiver who had a step and he just airmailed it out of bounds. That was the kind of DJU that we saw at Clemson that was just kind of like, okay, well, this isn't a problem with the receivers. This is a problem with you not being able to deliver the football accurately. So I think he'll be erratic. I think he'll be okay. And just having an okay quarterback at Florida State means the ACC is even more wide open than we thought it was just, 3 or 4 days ago.
And I guess clearly this means that they're not the lock for the CFP that a lot of folks thought they were.
Oh my gosh. Not even. I mean, look, it's going to be an uphill battle. It's just kind of the way this conference has a perception problem right now. And its conference champion is going to be locked into one of those top 4 seeds. But I tend to think that the ACC needs to have a second team make it to the CFP to really legitimize and start to combat the perception problem. And when your conference frontrunner goes out and loses a game, now it's not like they got manhandled. They lost on a last-second field goal, but it is a loss to a team that everybody thinks is just supposed to win their 7 games and be happy about it. I don't think anybody's thinking Georgia Tech is going to have a 10 or 11 win season and be in the CFP conversation. So your conference as a whole looks stronger, but the top of your conference looks weaker today than it did going into the weekend. And I think that's not a good thing for the ACC.
Conor O'Neill of Rivals.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. From a Georgia Tech perspective, what did that victory mean?
Oh, it means that they can dream about being at the top of the conference, right? I covered Duke, and so I kind of lived this last year. Duke goes out, and it was kind of a similar game, right? Like the team that's nobody really gives a fighting chance to because the other team is one of the perennial powers of college football. They go out and somebody forgot to tell the academic focused school that was just supposed to roll over that they were supposed to roll over, and they wind up getting a win. And I mean, with Duke last year, they beat Clemson, and you're starting to think, okay, well, they have a really tough schedule, but they just won the toughest game on the schedule, at least one of them. And so Georgia Tech, like I said, they're probably not going to win 10 or 11. They might. I mean, we might wind up going into the Georgia game. I made a joke about this with somebody over the weekend. Like, well, what happens when Georgia Tech is 11-0 and goes into that last week game and doesn't want to show Georgia anything and just plays it vanilla because they don't want to show the Dogs anything before the CFP matchup, right?
Yeah, you want to keep things fresh when you go into the playoff. And Connor, that's what I was going to ask you. You know, Vegas had Georgia Tech hovering around 5 to 6 wins. Does this
feel
win
great about that now?
Yeah, you certainly feel good about that for sure. But yeah, how much should we recalibrate our expectations for the Yellow Jackets perhaps now?
I think you recalibrate to a certain extent. I think the 10 or 11 wins is a pipe dream. I think you can recalibrate to say 8 or 9 and get to a decent like tier 1 bowl game. I kind of lose track of what the ACC has in bowl games, but I know a trip to the Pinstripe Bowl is always decent. A trip to San Diego for the Holiday Bowl would be a nice trip. Those types of things are well within Georgia Tech's grasp right now. The one thing that I think in hindsight, I didn't know this until they were playing the game and they said it, but Georgia Tech has one of these offensive lines that not only do they have a head coach who's a former offensive line coach, they've got one of these offensive lines that has, I think it's 123 combined career starts. So when you start talking about that, and when you're talking about already college football, the state of it, where you've got a bunch of 5th, 6th, some 7th year guys because they've had red shirts, they've had medical red shirts, they've had the COVID year as a red shirt. You've got some grown bleep men playing college football these days, and when you can kind of compile them on that offensive line, the one position group that needs to have 5 moving as one organism, that's where you can really develop an advantage. And I think Florida State's defensive line was exposed a little bit. Yeah. They have a lot of transfers that have come in, and while they might be really talented and they might show us how talented they are for the rest of the season, it's still their first time playing together in a lot of ways. And Georgia Tech had a big experienced offensive line that was really, they leaned on that. And that's how they had 2 really long drives in the second half to win the game.
Connor, what we Mo and I talked about on Fridays, we thought Georgia Tech certainly had a chance to win this game. Maybe you underestimated the chances, because then when I saw that their punter is from Ireland, and then also Seamus, he's on College Game Day and he's the only guy that's picking Georgia Tech, I kind of knew that things weren't necessarily playing in Florida State's favor this year.
So you're saying that Georgia Tech was a little more prepared for the Guinness and
I think so, man. I mean, when they showed the graphic and my man is out there, from Castle, Ireland County, Ireland, the punter for Georgia Tech, I said, "Ooh, okay, yeah, I don't like Florida State's chances very much anymore."
A ringer, as it were.
A ringer, and then Seamus was looking right at home. He was the only one standing up saying, "Let's take the Yellow Jackets." If every game were to be played in Ireland, I feel like, you might be onto something. Georgia Tech might potentially look undefeated here.
Well, there's the other part. If Georgia Tech was able to play every game against a ranked opponent, then I think, as with Brent Key as their coach, this makes them 5-0 against ranked teams. I mean, the job that he did taking over when he did in the middle of the 22 season, it was a phenomenal job. I thought he should have warranted. I think he did get a couple votes for ACC Coach of the Year, and I'm always kind of hesitant when you give the interim guy the full-time job, because it's just it's different, right? You're the guy just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and then you've got the job. It's a little different, but look, the decision to give him the job full-time was, I don't think anybody's arguing about that right now.
5-0 against ranked teams, but that was Georgia Tech's first win over a top 10 team since 2015.
Okay.
Solid performance there by King and the Yellow Jackets, as you said. Conor O'Neill of Rivals.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, kind of taking a look at this Georgia Tech Florida State debacle, if you're a Seminole fan, I guess. But as we kind of take a wider view of the Atlantic Coast Conference, Connor, I saw something earlier today. As we continue to invoke Clemson's name, and you cover Duke, tell us a little bit more about Bryce Davis, the 4-star defensive lineman that the Blue Devils flipped from Dabo and the Tigers.
Yeah, that's actually right down the road from me. Greensboro Grimsley High School is about 25 minutes away. Look, Duke was really close with him when he picked Clemson about 35 or 36 days ago. He picked Clemson, and the recruiting never stopped. There's kind of a wide sentiment out there, and it's been confirmed a few places that Bryce's parents wanted him at Duke. Obviously, a Duke degree is going to hold a little more weight than a Clemson degree. I don't know if I'm insulting anybody by saying that. And I think there's something to be said for every once in a while you'll find a kid who would rather go make a name for himself somewhere that doesn't have the football tradition, the football history, all the resources that somebody like Clemson has had or has. They kind of want to make a name for themselves. And I think that's where Bryce is coming from. It's a massive get for Duke. I mean, Rivals right now has Bryce Davis as the number 53 player in the country. That would be the highest that Duke has ever signed. They got Scott Bracey out of Richmond. He was a receiver who, through injuries and some other things, he never really panned out with Duke, but he was ranked 67th, and that's kind of the bar to beat for Bryce. So recruiting rankings wise, I mean, it's so impressive that Manny Diaz and his staff have been able to come in, and it's not just Bryce Davis. Like, the class they've assembled is a pretty high ranked class. We've got him 29th, I think, at Rivals right now. That's a hell of a job for a guy who is coaching his debut on Friday night.
Is that more of a plus for Duke, or is it more of an indication that Clemson is continuing to lose market share?
Just maybe from my perspective, because I see the Duke side a lot more than I see the Clemson side, I think it's a plus for Duke. I think Clemson's still going to get talent. I mean, I'm not all that familiar with their recruiting class, but I would wager that they still have a 4 or 5 star or 2 or 3 of them coming in on the defensive line. Like, Clemson's defensive line recruiting is going to be fine, but where it has to change is the transfer portal. And that's where Clemson is so reliant on high school recruiting that I get it. They're bringing in talented players, but your evaluations of those talented players and how they translate at Clemson is not 100%. It's not a 100% hit rate. Nobody bats 100. Nobody bats 1,000 in recruiting, and the transfer portal, you can make up for your misses, and you can cover them up. And that's where Dabo's refusal to use the transfer portal really shines. Is like I mentioned earlier, they've been bad at receiver, or at least they haven't been as good as they were when they had T. Higgins and Justin Ross going off, and even going back to Sammy Watkins. Like, there was an argument to be made that Clemson was one of the like wide receiver U type schools, and it's just been such a drop off. Well, they haven't brought in the caliber of receiver to make their quarterbacks any better. And that's where you look at last year and it's like Florida State beats Clemson and gets back on top of Clemson after spending most of the decade trying to catch back up to them. They have Keon Coleman, who just came from Michigan State, and they have Johnny Wilson, who got there a year earlier from Arizona State. They didn't recruit those guys out of high school. They went out and covered up their recruiting misses by bringing in two aliens on the outside, and that's one of the main reasons they beat Clemson and in Clemson. So that's where, like, Clemson's always going to have a talented recruiting class. They're always going to get guys that everybody else wants. It's a matter of sometimes those guys don't wind up being as talented as the rankings say they should be. And then when you don't use the transfer portal, you can't make up for those misses.
All right. To your point, according to this CBSSports.com article, Clemson slips behind Michigan at 14 in the 24/7 Sports team rankings with the loss of Davis. But Clemson has 3 guys ranked higher than Davis in their recruiting class. And so, again, to your point, it's not like Clemson's going to suffer a major loss with this, but I would think that the optics aren't great, though, particularly, losing a recruit to another ACC school.
No, the optics aren't great, and when you dive further into it, Grimsley High School has produced a ton of really high-ranked defensive linemen over the last 5 to 7 years. Very few of those guys have actually stayed in state. Like, it's been Georgia and Clemson coming up here and taking those guys, with the exception of Travis Shaw, who went to UNC. But it's you run into the matter of Clemson has, nobody's NIL budget is unlimited. Clemson has an NIL budget that they've got to spread across a lot of talented and highly touted players coming from the high school ranks. Duke can target 1 or 2 guys and kind of pick off the top of where they think they have a chance, and they can give a lot more of their NIL budget to those guys, if that makes sense, and you get where I'm going with that.
Mm-hmm.
Look, again, I don't think Clemson is going to all of a sudden plummet and be bringing in classes in the 30s and 40s. I don't know. It's hard to see the sky falling for Clemson anytime soon, at least as long as Dabo's their coach, as long as they have phone calls from Tyler and from Spartanburg and that sort of thing. I think the floor for that program is going to remain pretty high.
Funny you mentioned Tyler from Spartanburg, because apparently Clemson is contemplating no longer allowing live call-ins or live questions for Dabo's weekly radio show. And they're saying that it's not 100% because of Tyler from Spartanburg, but I don't know how you can sell that Tyler had nothing to do with it. He's still going to appear on the show on Monday nights, but it sounds as if fans will only be able to email or text questions, no live questions, which means that officials will be able to better screen questions for Coach Sweeney. And, we talked a second ago about optics. When's the last time Clemson's football did anything that had a positive look to it?
Whew. They had it was 2022 when Brian Breese's sister passed away from cancer, and they had a lot of rallying the team around Ella. That's where my mind immediately goes. But
I mean, it just feels like a lot of defensiveness and a lot of bad optics.
It does.
Clemson right now.
Look, it's a coach who, like, Dabo is, if it goes wrong, if this is, if last year and is the start of that program actually falling off and kind of deteriorating, Dabo's going to go down in his own way, right? Like he's going to go down still claiming that their program was built in the original NIL. They're going to go down not bringing in transfers. They're going to go down saying that their recruiting philosophy is to bring in talented high school classes. It's like, I think they could get back to the top of the ACC this year, but if this is the start of how it goes bad, they're going to go bad with quite a stubborn coach at the helm. And it's going to be a couple years of it, because 2 national championships buy you a lot of security there.
There is that, and he does have that. But, even going back to the start of this segment when we talked about DJ and things not going well for him at Clemson and it not necessarily being on him, I mean, it just kind of continues to spin that, to me, Dabo just kind of feels like the Teflon man.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way it's been built up. I mean, that's the way Clemson's built, right? They're insulated. They're not in a big city. You can flip a coin and decide whether they or South Carolina football are the professional football team of that state.
Mm-hmm.
So they have all the eyes on them, and it's not like South Carolina is stealing a lot of eyeballs, at least not right now.
All right.
With that being said, Connor, the line is 13.5 this weekend. Does Georgia run it up on Clemson, or the Tigers keep it close? Conversation feels like we know the answer, but I'm just curious.
I have so much more confidence in Georgia. Maybe that's because I saw what Clemson's opener looked like last year. Like I saw them fumble the ball inside the 5-yard line twice. I saw them not be able to block for field goals
against Duke.
Yeah. And that's against the Duke team that is full of a bunch of under-recruited 3-star types, maybe a 4-star thrown in here and there, not a team that's built in the way of Georgia, obviously. I think Georgia probably it shouldn't be a name the score game, but
yeah,
I think Georgia asserts some dominance there and pulls away.
There we go. Conor O'Neill of Rivals.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Conor, we appreciate you taking some time with us and certainly look forward to visiting with you again down the road.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right. Appreciate it. Hey, when we continue on Main Street Sports today after this break, it's the grab bag as we look back at some of the weekend and tie up some other loose ends elsewhere. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
He shoots, and he scores!
Robertson County Chancery Court is hosting an in-person court auction Saturday, September 7th at 10 a.m. Buy up to 9.46 acres of beautiful Robertson County land, selling in 2 tracts. Each tract includes water and approved soil areas. Located at 4637 Boyd Holland Road. Join us Saturday, September 7th at 10 a.m. Sales subject to court approval. For more details, call 615-384-5650 today.
Welcome back to the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. And Wade, did you know TJ Finley was at Western Kentucky?
Not a clue, partner. And that's not just because I don't really keep up with that school, but I definitely didn't have a clue about that until I saw the rundown today.
Yeah. TJ Finley is at Western Kentucky, his 4th school of his collegiate football career, and he will start for the Hilltoppers this weekend at Alabama.
3rd time's the charm, maybe?
Began his career at LSU, transferred to Auburn, spent 2 years there, was at Texas State last year. Where among their opponents was South Alabama, coached by current Crimson Tide defensive coordinator Kane Womack. So you will see TJ Finley in his 4th uniform.
I'm looking at the stats here. 14 of 28 for 144 yards before he got benched when he was at LSU. And then when he was at Auburn, 17 of 26 for 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. But the Tide with that 4 overtime win. So, yeah, maybe 3rd time's the charm, and in a different uniform here.
6:05 kickoff Saturday at Bryant Denny. Be a lot of red down there, I guess, different shades, but it's just wild to me. I mean, I know that this is the world that we're in now, that guys can be at 4 schools in 4 or 5 years or whatever, but it's a little mind-boggling, mind-blowing. But TJ Finley coming soon to a gridiron near you, and I guess that should prompt me to check out the MTSU schedule and see when it is that they will see TJ.
2 weeks, right?
It's close. It's early.
Got the opener this week versus Tech. Got Ole Miss next week, and then Western at home the following week.
That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting indeed. Wade, it's official. Michigan has received its notice of allegations from the NCAA regarding the sign stealing situation. So
enlighten me. I'm not going to do the LeBron woo meme, but that's kind of where I'm at with this situation. Nina Kimes, where you at? Because it's
you're not scared, huh?
Yeah, let's get this thing rolling.
So apparently what we heard earlier this year was a leak. So they have officially been put on notice at this point.
Put on notice, yeah.
Yeah. NCAA policy gives Michigan 90 days to respond to the notice of allegations, which would allow the Wolverines until late November to address the accusations. After a response, the NCAA could then call a meeting of the Committee on Infractions, but that could take place well after the 2024 season is complete. So, for good reason, you're kind of taking the Mina Kimes LBJ approach to this, because this may not have any impact at all on this season.
Probably not. And I mean, at the end of the day, Stallions kind of gets a bad rap. Partridge is already gone. Shoelace kind of gets caught up in it a little bit, but Moore potentially is okay. And then Harbaugh, leaving the way that he left, Michigan kind of cleared up a lot of its potential. If there was, something real salacious going on there, they kind of did a good job of either framing in a certain way or making sure that the heat was kind of taken off just such. So I think they'll end up being okay, unless Netflix has got something real big coming up for us. Tomorrow? Tonight,
is it that soon?
Midnight, I think. Yeah, tonight or tomorrow, maybe.
And the thing about it is, in light of everything that you just said, if the NCAA does too much, then they look particularly punitive under the circumstances. I mean, look, there's nobody even here still associated with that.
That's kind of, and that's not just a Michigan thing. That's kind of always been one of the bad things about the NCAA is we always hear, the classic story. Oh, well, these players are getting punished for actions that a previous coach or a previous regime, they had nothing to do with. So it feels kind of like another one of those spins on the merry-go-round in my estimation. I will be watching though. It'll be fascinating.
Wade, you talked about that Georgia Clemson game coming up Saturday in the last segment with Conor O'Neill. It looks as though Georgia could be down to its number 3 running back for that one, as Roderick Robinson II recently underwent surgery to repair a toe injury, is not expected to play. Trevor Etienne, arrested in late March on DUI charges, among other things. The DUI was dropped in July, but Etienne pled no contest to reckless driving, guilty to charges of underage possession of alcohol, failure to maintain lane, and a window tint violation. I think all of those are misdemeanors, but it'll be interesting to see how Georgia handles that, whether there is actually a game missed or some games missed, or if they just dock his pay. So if Etienne isn't available, Branson Robinson would probably be the first guy out. Branson Robinson missed all of last year after a ruptured patella tendon. So the running back room getting a little thin, or threatens to be a little thin, for Georgia heading into this Clemson game. But you said the line is 13.5?
13.5, and that's currently. So any news that has been factored in is already baked into that line. So that's what Vegas thinks of the running back, how potential lack thereof, I suppose, for the Bulldogs versus the Tigers this weekend.
Yeah. We talked about Keegan Bradley early in the BMW. He kind of fell off on Friday, stormed back, and clinched a spot in the Tour Championship next week in Atlanta after winning the BMW Championship as the last guy into the field.
Crazy.
50th in the FedEx Cup standings coming into that tournament, won by a shot, and will again have a spot in the 30-man field for the Tour Championship tournament. So even par Sunday, and that was enough.
Yeah, wild situation. He 3 putts for bogey on the final hole, but he had the cushion. Got the USA chance going, which was pretty cool, I thought, as well.
As the Ryder Cup captain?
Yeah. I mean, show a little love to the captain. So, I mean, very, very cool story for Keegan, who has had kind of a wild career. He's competitive enough, but, he's not just mind-blowingly great at times, but every now and again he just pops up and has these great runs and these great performances. And especially once Matsuyama goes out, it felt like this tournament was somebody's for the taking, literally, I suppose. But man, props to Keegs for showing up and doing well this weekend.
His 7th PGA Tour victory. Couple of runner-up finishes earlier this year. But I'm reading this article. So Scotty Scheffler enters the Tour Championship at number 1 in the standings and will start at 10 under on the leaderboard. Schauffele is second and will start at 8 under. Matsuyama, again, who withdrew earlier this week, if he plays at East Lake, will be 3rd. And Bradley will be 6 under going into the tournament. So that's kind of mind-blowing to me. So everybody doesn't start even.
Kind of a reward, right? For what you've done throughout the course of the season, I suppose. And when you're down to just 30, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, Keegs is 4 off of Scheffler, and then Xander's 2 back. This will be kind of fun. This was the tournament several years ago that Tiger obviously had the crazy comeback and really kind of just captivated everybody's imagination once again. So East Lake's always had kind of a special place in the heart of a lot of golf fans for this Tour Championship show. It will be fascinating when we get ready to tee it up.
Absolutely. 23-year-old Harrison Burton wins Daytona on Saturday night.
Hey, real quick, by the way, speaking of bucks, I just wanted to point this out. $25 million to the winner and a 5-year exemption for the PGA Tour if you can bring this sucker down this weekend.
Oh, that's not nothing.
Yeah, hello.
Goodness gracious, $25 million and a 5-year exemption. Okay. All right. 23-year-old Harrison Burton wins at Daytona, taking us up to the final race of the regular season this weekend. And some folks are a little restless for obvious reasons, particularly Bubba Wallace and Ross Chastain, because they are at this moment on the outside looking in. We will talk more about this with Heather Williams on Wednesday during our NASCAR segment, but clearly that was a big win for the youngster and a big win for his team, Wood Brothers. Their 100th Cup victory, and broke a long drought for them, I think. So, again, we will talk more with Heather about that on Wednesday. But that was some big news. Nice win for the kid there, Harrison Burton, down at Daytona. Let's go ahead, close up shop here on Main Street Sports Today, the Monday Mirror edition presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We will see you all at 2:00 tomorrow, right? Well, not right here, because we'll actually be in Columbia tomorrow. Is that right, Wade? Is that the plan?
Works for me.
We will be at West 7th Street tomorrow, so be sure and check us out. Wade and I will be in the same place at the same time. Looking forward to seeing you in the same place at the same time as well. 2:00. Come see us. Talk to y'all later.